Have you ever pondered why the Sabbath, an age-old tradition observed from Friday evening to Saturday evening, has never been replaced? It's a question that has sparked curiosity among many. The Sabbath, a day of rest and worship, holds a significant place in religious practices and societal norms. Its origins trace back to ancient times, and yet it has weathered the storms of change and evolution, remaining a constant in our lives. In this exploration, we'll delve deep into the intriguing narrative of the Sabbath, drawing upon a variety of reliable sources. Imagine, if you will, giving 10% of your hard-earned income to a pastor or priest, yet they don't impart the wisdom you seek. Instead, here's a revolutionary idea. Dedicate a moment to hit like and subscribe. It's a small gesture, but it allows us to continue providing the insights you crave. You are the power behind this channel. So, challenge the norm. And remember, we're always just a click away. We'll also take a moment to address a misunderstanding concerning a key term in the understanding of the Sabbath, the Greek term mian sabbaton. Often translated as first day of the week, this phrase actually refers to the first in the count of 7 Sabbaths, from Passover to Pentecost, not Sunday. This mistranslation has led to confusion and misconceptions about the Sabbath, which we will clear up in our study. We'll reference the New American Standard Bible, the NASB 95 version, shedding light on the Sabbath's scriptural significance. Also turn the pages of church history, revealing confessions change. And we won't stop there. The Encyclopedia Britannica will serve as our comprehensive guide, providing an unbiased view of the Sabbath throughout history. So let's unravel the mystery of the unchanging Sabbath and correct misunderstandings along the. To understand the Sabbath, we must first delve into its origins. The New American Standard Bible, 1995 edition, or NASB 95, is a literal translation of the original biblical languages, preserving the powerful imagery and historical context of its time. In its pages, the Sabbath, or the seventh day, is mentioned over 50 times. It is first introduced in Genesis, where God rested on the seventh day after creating the world. This day of rest, the Sabbath, was sanctified, set apart as holy. In Exodus, Sabbath is further emphasized in the Ten Commandments, where God commands his people to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. This day was not just about rest, it was a day dedicated to the worship of God, a day to cease from common labor and focus on the divine. The Sabbath was a symbol of the covenant between God and his people, a sign of their commitment to him. In the book of Isaiah, the prophet communicates God's message, urging people to honor the Sabbath, promising blessings for those who do. He doesn't just mention avoiding work, but also speaks of turning one's foot from doing their own pleasure on God's holy day. The Sabbath was to be a day of delight, a day dedicated to the Lord. In the New Testament, Jesus himself observed the Sabbath, teaching in synagogues, healing the sick, and doing good. He declared that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. It was a day meant for spiritual nourishment and rest. These scriptures underscore the Sabbath in the Bible. It was not just a day of rest, but a day of worship, a day set apart for God. It was a day that was observed strictly, a tradition that was ingrained in the life of God's people. As we can see, the Sabbath holds a deep-rooted importance in the original scripture, a tradition that was strictly observed from Friday evening to Saturday evening. Venture with me now into the annals of ecclesiastical antiquity, where the Sabbath experienced dramatic metamorphoses. Our voyage commences with the early Christian church, when the Sabbath was initially held as a day of respite and reverence, harmonizing with Jewish custom. However, with Christianity's expansion through the Roman realm, a transition ensued. There was a shift from observing the Sabbath on Saturday, the week's seventh day, to Sunday, the first day. This modification was not based on scriptural sanction, but rather was driven by a desire to distinguish Christian rituals from Jewish ones and to memorialize the resurrection of Jesus Christ, believed to have taken place on a Sunday. Fast forward to the 4th century, where under Emperor Constantine's reign, Sunday was officially declared as the day of repose and praise for Christians. This proclamation, however, was not in honor of the biblical Sabbath, but in reverence of the fictitious sun god Solus Invictus. A significant alteration, it did not go without dispute, as it was perceived some as a deviation from the biblical mandate to observe the Sabbath on the 7th day. Despite this, the Church defended this shift. asserting its prerogative to determine its unique day of worship. Next, we journey to the 16th century, a time when the Protestant Reformation introduced more changes to the Sabbath. Reformers such as Martin Luther and John Calvin aspired to revert to biblical teachings and accentuated the spiritual aspect of the Sabbath over its literal observance. They posited that the Sabbath was a day for spiritual respite and introspection rather than a day of physical rest. This shift, while significant, moved farther away from the true Sabbath. Despite these shifts and modifications throughout church history, the fundamental sanctity of the Sabbath as a holy day for rest and worship has never been supplanted. Regardless of the day it is observed or the specific traditions followed, the Sabbath continues to be a day dedicated to rest, reflection, and reconnection with our spiritual selves. But in spite of that core essence of the Sabbath, its sanctity and significance has remained intact. Today, we see the Sabbath observed across a spectrum of religions and cultures, each showcasing unique interpretations and practices. Beginning with Judaism, the Sabbath is observed from Friday evening to Saturday evening, providing a day of rest and spiritual enrichment. This day, set apart from the rest of the week, is filled with prayer, family meals, and the refraining from work. Still adhering to the Torah's commandment to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, Jews respect this day as the true Sabbath. Moving on to Christianity, Sunday has traditionally been observed as the Sabbath in memory of Christ's resurrection, marked by church services, prayer, and this practice, however, isn't directly condoned by Scripture. Still, there are Christian denominations that continue to observe the Sabbath on Saturday, adhering to the original biblical mandate. It's worth reiterating that according to Scriptures, the true Sabbath is the seventh day, observed from sundown to sundown. Through its journey, the Sabbath has shown remarkable endurance and adaptability, maintaining its relevance and importance by offering respite from the relentless pace of modern life. As an age-old sanctuary of tranquility, it provides the space to disconnect from the world and reconnect with oneself and the divine. The need for rest and reflection hasn't changed over millennia, and the Sabbath's endurance testifies to this unchanged need. As we can see, the Sabbath has withstood the test of time, remaining a constant amid a world of change. So, what have we learned from our exploration of the Sabbath's enduring relevance? Well, we've delved into the New American Standard Bible, 1995 edition, where the Sabbath's significance is deeply rooted. We've seen it as a day of rest, a divine commandment, and a symbol of covenant between God and His chosen people. We've navigated through the twists of church history, witnessing changes and adaptations, yet the Sabbath's essence has remained untouched. The church has acknowledged shifting the day of worship, yet the Sabbath in its original form was never replaced. Today, the Sabbath's observance may shift, but its core meaning, observed from sundown to sundown on the seventh day, endures. The Encyclopedia Britannica, a trusted source, confirms this continuity, echoing the unchanged nature of the Sabbath. Despite the ebb and flow of traditions and interpretations, the Sabbath stands firm, an unyielding beacon in the landscape of faith. In the end, the Sabbath remains an unwavering pillar of faith and tradition, a testament to its profound significance in our lives. It's time we return to the true Sabbath, observed from sundown to sundown on the seventh day.